British subjects kind of explains the so what even more. I mean, not even just analysis, but like
Point out where that is.
literally on the
Oh, right, sorry. I just, when you're staring at it, it's hard from here.
And
Yep.
I mean, not that that's completely factual, but like it adds to the so what. Like, what's the point of why it's supposed to read those things for whatever reason?
Okay. Now it's time to be honest. This is a really good answer, isn't it? It's not perfect. Right? There are issues, aren't there? Adam?
I would say
First?
some of the grammar is awkward.
Where?
Spots, like the first sentence.
And remember my ears. Got to go loud enough for me to hear you.
Like the first sentence, when British troops arrived in Boston to enforce order throughout the colonies, the outcome was. Oh, wait, no, that was wrong sentence. All right, get back to me. I gotta find it.
No, I mean, I can someone help me out, and I agree. There's some issues. I just want you to, Ethan.
Well, like, right after the sentence you underlined, where it says colonists involved in smuggling, had no taxes, there shouldn't really be a comma there.
I gotta remind all of you. I'm literally losing you. You got to right. My ears just.
So like, you know the sentence you underlined,
Right.
the one after it, it's like there's a comma in a place where it goes.
Had no taxes.
Yeah.
Like,
Like read that sentence out.
Smuggling.
Colonists involved
No
in
comma.
smuggling, had no taxes before Britain enforced. Yeah. So, I'm just saying there's
Like places like that where
right.
it's awkward.
Also, had no taxes before Britain enforced the taxes. Right? So there's some awkwardness there. Right? I mean, I didn't want to cut that short. There's a few other places where it doesn't quite work, so let's point them out, right? You see, Victoria?
When they mentioned the Sons of Liberty towards the end, they put the Sons of Liberty, comma, and the colonial government.
Let's get it. Where is it?
Towards the bottom. 5, 6 lines up near the top.
Okay. Led by groups such as the Sons of Liberty, comma, and colonial governments. Yeah, and there's more than just that, but it's such as the Sons of Liberty and colonial governments. The protests affected the politics between the. That's not a sentence, right? It's two that have been mashed together. There's something. Do we know what's trying to be said there?
Yeah, they're trying to say like the protests led by people.
Yeah, but what does that look like? Does that look like a classmate of yours doesn't understand grammar or didn't edit? To me, that looks like a oops, right? I was typing it up, and I didn't catch myself, right? That to me, that's what that's. Especially because the rest of it is, even with some of the problems, it's pretty well written, but it shows, right? Editing. Okay, what other kinds of things can we point out? We don't have to stay on that.
I mean, it's like really minor, but like it says in the columnist.
Instead of columnist.
Yeah.
Where?
The columnist, like
Up from
fifth
the
line
top.
down, it says columnist instead of columnists. Really minor, but
Either come up and show me or point it out, because
Towards the top, 5 rows down, towards the right.
I'm just my.
whoa.
Yeah, the light is.
Yes.
Okay. No, but listen. You're saying it's really minor, right? But all those things you want to pay attention to that. I don't think that's right. We want to hit what we can. Yes.
I feel like at the end it talks about like what one of the causes and why it was most significant, but they didn't explain it that well. And they did explain the first 3 significant causes very, very well, but the problem was you said it had to be very brief, and they did the opposite of that.
Yep.
Even though it was good and the conclusions were good, but I feel like the most significant one should have been the most explained.
Yeah. So this almost lulls you. Again, let's go back and say I think this is a good answer, right? It's flawed, but it's a good answer. This almost lulls you into thinking, right? It's done the job, and it has, but it's done it. It almost feels like I ran out of time, right? You've got all this stuff, and then oops, time to go. But we still got this right here, and that's supposed to be the focus, right? So how could we solve that? Aren't there 2 ways to solve it? What were you going to?
Well, just continuing with that, like the question said, having done so, pick one of these causes and explain why it was most significant. That seems more important, like you said, than
So
the first 3
you got to
sentences.
add more here.
Yeah.
The problem with that now, it becomes not a short answer, but trying to be an essay. So add more here and do what
You
else?
could take away from.
Yeah, you can pare this down a little bit, right? And not to the detriment of the answer, right? You try to find places where you don't necessarily need. Anybody spot a place that you might be able to take out without ruining the answer?
The part where it says these taxes created an inconvenience for the merchants and the people of the colonies, you could just say the taxes created an inconvenience for, or you could say,
How about, you got two sentences, right? Stamp Act Townsend and other policies require taxing goods that harm the relationship greatly, and then it says more, essentially the same thing, right? So use one or the other, or combine them and shorten it down. That's just one example, right? I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna, not that, I'm not gonna ignore the, but Adam, you were, before,
well,
we,
there's a
that's what I was
sentence you could take
trying to go
out.
back to that.
There's a sentence you could take out. These two instances were major contributors to the rising tension between the colonies and Britain.
Okay,
I believe that sentence isn't really needed, so
I'm-
just like applied.
come up and show me. It's not that I don't believe you, it's the early morning 80-year-old years syndrome. Show me, show us. What do we got? Ah. Okay, so tell the class now what you're saying is,
You don't really need that sentences, or that sentence, because it's just basically sort of implied. You don't really need to say it.
and another, and by the way, I'm guilty of throwing commas around too, but here's another, that doesn't make sense there. Jack, and then back to Dan.
This could be wrong, but it says,
Louder, Jack.
this could be wrong, but it says a third and most direct, or would it be the third and most direct? And it's
Yeah, I think because the question is saying choose three, but it doesn't have to be the three, I think you could do it that way, but it doesn't hurt to pay attention to those kinds of things. Dan, and then,
It
Just
should
like
be
for
the-
somebody mentioned previously about how like the significance just kind of seems like thrown like out there like when it's supposed to be kind of like the main focus.
yeah,
Like I was thinking you just like take the idea that you presented and just basically do the same that you did with explaining the three significant causes.
Yep.
And just go into more detail explaining.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, if the writers of this added more detail, would you buy that they're right about which one I don't mean you have to do it that way, but pointing out this is the significant, does that work for you?
Yeah.
The argument, even though they haven't given you as much as they should have? Yeah, I mean, it's in place, it's ready to be even better. Victoria, you get the last word on this one.
Well, this isn't so much as like something to take out, but something that was recommended to take out, and I don't think we should take out.
Okay, that's good, we don't wanna just all nod and agree, so.
Yeah, where it says like the line Adam underlined, the two instances, and it says like it caused rising tension between the two. Isn't that kind of important, because it's saying the significance of it, and you can't really imply the reader knows anything?
Okay, so basically the question is, these two instances were major contributors to the rising tension. Okay? And the suggestion was that's implied by the fact that they've been included in the question itself is asking. So now, right, I said before, do you have to repeat the question? I said no. How do you show it by answering? So I take you to be saying, in a way, that sentence, you're suggesting that sentence is almost more important in some ways.
Yeah, because it's like analyzing.
It's more
the evidence
analytical.
Instead of just like.
Okay, I mean, I think that you could swing either way on that, or try to integrate that into the introduction. See what I'm saying? That, in other words, I like this. I think other people agree, I think, right? So, perhaps, maybe you don't get rid of that, but maybe you start with major contributors to the rising tension of, colonial America, or maybe start with that are, because although this is a neat narrative, it's just a narrative, right? So, I mean, there's some, you certainly could play around with it. I think that's, Will?
I agree with you. I think that should maybe be at the beginning because it's sort of just telling. Because like if I just read this and I hadn't read the question, I wouldn't really know that they're talking about I wouldn't really understand, that they're talking about the significant causes of the revolution. I would just kind of be reading like a narrative.
So but you're also agreeing with Victoria that this sentence is what,
I think it's important. I think
Makes
it
it
should just
clear.
read more towards the beginning.
okay. So you could take that out, but then you've got to make sure that you do more down here, or you can include it, and again, just winnow it down. I keep saying last word, but Sean, you get the last word.
Yeah, I think actually putting that sentence towards the end would be better, because like you said, it's an analytical statement. So putting that in the beginning would like kind of be unfounded, because there wouldn't be as much evidence to support
Because you
it.
haven't presented the evidence.
Yeah, exactly. But if you put it towards the end, and then it would make a lot more sense to the reader.
How about this? Just to, you take that and put it down toward the end, but instead of these two, you say something like these three, but then that's where you amplify. But of the three, Victoria doesn't like it.
No.
Go ahead.
I feel like if you put it at the front though, it could be more like a topic sentence, and you could say like the following are contributors to the tension, and then it gives more of a background than just saying the British troops arrived, because then it relates to everything that's in the paper.
But wasn't the whole point about this short response? The whole point about the short response was that we really liked the beginning because it didn't sound the same as the other ones. So
Either way, it's still gonna be the same.
I think that I think that's. I mean, listen. I think that's good. It's good that you're thinking about how best to express it. Okay. Do we have any factual errors in here?
Clearly we do.
Someone's saying, "Uh-oh, that sounds like a loaded question, Mr. Bond."
We do.
Ethan,
So.
I'm being a little unfair, I think, but go ahead, sir.
It says that Parliament passed multiple tax acts to raise revenue for Britain, but it was also a behavioral thing.
Yeah,
So that's not. It's
I'm
like
being-
it's part of the reason, but it's not the entire reason.
I'm being a little picky, but the implied focus here is not only were the taxes raising revenue, but that the raising of the revenue was. But remember, right? Were the colonists paying lots of taxes? No. This doesn't come out and say they were paying. It doesn't go that far, right? But it does kind of tempt you to think, right? When it talks about this was an inconvenience for the merchants, right? Isn't it actually rather the protests for the inconvenience? Right? It's the whole rioting and the taxes didn't work, right? So you got to be careful. It was the fear that it would be an inconvenience, the fear of interrupting trade, boycotts. On that note, okay, we're going to shift. But actually, first, we've been at this a long time. We're going to shift gears, okay? I'm going to have you can take a couple-minute break. When you come back with one other person, I want you to pick either, you'll notice there's 2 more on this page, there's 2 more on the back. That's all 5 answers. I want you to pick one, okay, and do a quick little annotation of it, and share with somebody else. You can both do the same one, or you can do a different one and compare. Okay? Right now, when you get up, shake the cobwebs out of your head. If you need to use the bathroom, take a pass quietly in the hall, right? 2 minutes. Let's make it 2, 3 minutes.
However, we're gonna destroy it.
Yeah.
Hey, Dante, can you do me a favor? Can you erase the stuff on that?
Sure. Go ahead.
You might need to use the, it's non-toxic. I promise I'm not gonna make this switch out.
Not more, no, already worth
And then my other one was like, moving
Thank you, sir. Okay, about another minute.
It's just open the case of the fire.